Hello. Before anything, I must thank you for giving your time to give a voice to hundreds of thousands of people who throughout history have been silenced. All we ask of you for the next few minutes is to keep an open mind, an open heart, and listen. As a group of university students, we were asked to examine the rights violations against the Jewish community. This is known as anti-Semitism. We decided to investigate the prevalence of these anti-Semitic acts within the city of Toronto, more specifically on university campuses. We decided that the best course of action would be to first ask the students themselves to see what they knew about anti-Semitism.
So what do you guys know about anti-Semitism?
Well, I guess it's, some people are against Jews and against their views and stuff, so that's pretty much what it is.
I do not know what that means.
I have no idea what it is.
Not much, exactly, other than I know it's real and it's a problem that's existed since the beginning of time, since the beginning of the Jewish faith.
Well, I know it's not a good thing first. Well, obviously it's not a good thing. And I know through history, well, Nazis did it. Jews. Yeah.
Don't know anything about it right now.
You're the expert.
I don't really know a lot about it. Only like what we hear on TV and stuff like that.
I guess not too much.
Not too much?
I'm studying World War II now, so just that Hitler was against Jews and he got the ideas and he was in, I think, Vienna. Vienna, and he got it from a lot of views and wrote about it, Mein Kampf, and that was the basis of World War II.
Anti-Semitism is defined as hostility toward or discrimination against Jews as a religious or ethnical group. The term anti-Semitism was coined in 1879 by William Marr in Germany to reference the anti-Jewish campaigns that were underway in Central Europe at the time. Despite what many people believe, anti-Semitism is not a new development. The first recordings of any anti-Semitic act reference to 586 before Common Era, in which the Babylonians destroyed an ancient temple in Jerusalem and captured Judea, along with the 10,000 Jewish families residing there.
In the late medieval period, there are, of course, many other forms of anti-Jewish sentiment, not just physical violent attacks, but disputations where Jews are forced to listen to basically sermons that explain why Judaism is wrong and Christianity is right. There are intense accusations of Jewish ritual murder and Jews that stand trial and are found guilty of these ritual murders. There are blood libels and mobs. There are ordinances that prohibit Jews from settling in certain areas and expel them from living in other areas. There are policies that force Jews to wear badges or special hats or special clothes to distinguish them from their non-Jewish neighbors, and they're obviously forms of humiliation. In the modern period, there's a sort of new form of anti-Jewish feeling that arises that's linked to the question of whether or not Jews should be allowed to be citizens of particular modern nation states and whether they fit in to the modern nation. So there are anti-Jewish laws that are aimed at destroying the Jewish religion, as well as destroying the sort of fabric of Jewish social, intense conscription to the army, sort of attempts at mass starvation, restrictions on rituals, restrictions on language, restrictions in geography where Jews can live, restrictions in marriage patterns, and restrictions in occupational profiles that Jews are allowed to have. Of course, throughout the 18th, 19th, 20th century, we know about tremendous anti-Jewish violence that also takes place. Anti-Semitism has its own history, and indeed it changes a lot. The thing that's in common is that there's bad feelings and bad policies and bad actions that are directed at Jews, but the nature of anti-Semitism has changed a tremendous amount over history. In the early years, it was religious anti-Semitism, although from a historian's perspective, this also had clear economic reasons economic reasons and social reasons that made anti-Semitism possible. But as in the modern period, anti-Semitism became there's political anti-Semitism and eventually racial anti-Semitism.
Despite all this, we were still unsure if anti-Semitism was still as prevalent in modern-day society as it has been throughout history. We decided to go back to the students to see what they thought.
Do you think anti-Semitism is still present in our society?
I can't say could be. As there's people who hate Muslims or hate Jewish or hate any kind of ethnicity. So I could say yes.
It is. I hate it, but it is. I don't think it's as... Actually, I probably take that back. It's not as violent, I don't think, at least in Canada and the US.
It's definitely there. I don't know if it's visible, but it's there. It's there somewhere. There's people who still harbor these resentments, these feelings.
I don't really see it in Canada anyway. No. No, I haven't, not in Canada.
Definitely not as prominent as back then. But I mean, we live in Canada, and it's a pretty multicultural country.
Well, yeah, it is, but we can't just say it. Yeah, it's not visible to us.
Still curious, we decided to go to B'nai B'rith, an international organization that looks to combat anti-Semitism.
I personally, yes, there's neo-Nazi activity. One of the greatest numbers of incidents involves swastikas on houses and doors, and pulling down mezuzot is the scroll on the side of the doorpost that marks a Jewish home. Still happens. We get every year 1 or 2, 3 cemetery desecrations. This year, 2011 rather, it was in Victoria, one of the oldest cemeteries. 2010, there was a horrible incident in New Brunswick, Ottawa Cemetery. If we sort of say to ourselves, well, that's all we need to worry about is what's come before and not look where we're going, then we're going to miss what's right in our face. Now, the continuum of anti-Semitism is that we've moved from prejudice and stereotypes and systemic hatred right into terrorism. Right? The modern form of anti-Semitism links a hatred for the state of Israel as a Jewish state, and has turned into maybe, we haven't seen it yet, but it could well be the most lethal form of hatred ever. Anti-Semitism manifests itself in Canada at home, at work, and at school. And when it comes to school, it certainly comes to fruition at all levels of school. Unfortunately, we see anti-Semitism right up into the universities. Often Middle East discussions are the trigger, but not exclusively. At this time of year where Israel Apartheid Week is happening, including on Ryerson campuses, we do find that incidents of harassment in particular, but also vandalism, go up. We've even had incidents of assault on campus. A couple of years back, there was an assault that took place in downtown Toronto connected to Israel Apartheid Week. Tensions rise as in my view, propaganda gets put out there, and it can relate to, it can fall into one of our categories. We've had it at events, we've had it in the washrooms, we've had it in the classroom where students feel harassed by comments made by a professor. I'm following up on a couple of those right this very day. Unfortunately, anti-Semitism can happen everywhere and anywhere, and it takes all kinds of forms in Canada today.